Welcome everyone to the very first episode of The FrEEK Show, the show where I take you into the supernatural and the paranormal, through myths and legends, monsters and mysteries. Keep in mind that I'm not trying to convince you into believing any of these things, nor am I saying that I believe in them myself. I'm merely trying to use my fascination with the paranormal and the supernatural to tell you about them. Each episode I will bring a new topic to light, researching it until I have a proper understanding of it, and then relaying to you folks the facts. For our very first video, I decided to delve into a legend. Some write it off as myth, others a hoax, others something else. Today, we will be talking about the mysterious black-eyed children. Now, if you're superstitious, then you may want to click off, because legend has it that if you know about them, you're more likely to have an encounter. I will say that I have researched them for over a week now, and nothing has happened to me. Researchers have been digging into the legends for years, and have never had an experience, so I think you're safe. Now, black-eyed children, or black-eyed kids, or BEKs for short, is a story of creepy kids with black eyes. Now, some of you may have heard of them already. Most people just write them off as a creepypasta. However, the stories of these kids predates the internet. Now let me explain exactly what a black-eyed child is. Of course, as I've already stated, and as the name implies, they are creepy kids with black eyes. The stories typically go like this. Someone is either sitting in their house or in their car at night, minding their own business, when all of a sudden, they are startled by a knock. The person then either goes to answer the door or looks out the car window. They see 1 to 3 kids. Ages are typically between 8 and 16 years old. Clothing is either plain or slightly outdated, although more often than not they're wearing a dark hoodie with the hood up. They then ask for a favor, in a monotone voice, usually to be let in to use a phone, or go to the bathroom, or if they're at a car, they'll ask for a ride home. At some point, the person retelling the story starts to feel uneasy, scared for no reason. It's usually around this point they notice the eyes. Pitch black eyes. Not like empty eye sockets or extremely dilated pupils, but full-on black eyes. No iris, no white, just blackness. If you have ever seen the show Supernatural, then think of when the demon's eyes go black. It's like that. Some even say that they have a hypnotic ability that they use to try and force people into doing what they want. A few stories even suggest that they have telepathic powers that they use to communicate with each other or their victims. It is usually around this point that the storyteller freaks out and either slams the door or drives away. The child can usually be heard knocking and yelling to be let in. However, when the driver checks their mirrors, or the person at home goes to look out the window, no one is there. They just seem to vanish, leaving the victim confused by what just happened. Often the people that have these encounters are frightened even by the thought of it for the rest of their lives. Now that we have a basic understanding of what the black-eyed children are, let's dig into the legend behind them. I stated before that most people write the BEKs off as a creepypasta, a modern-day urban legend, much like Slender Man, which I stated isn't the case. Let's take a look into the legend behind them. The first real documented case happened in 1996. Journalist Brian Bethel was out one night to pay his internet bill in Abilene, Texas. Brian stated that he was sitting in a nearby movie theater parking lot, writing out the check to slip into the internet provider's Dropbox. He was startled by knocking at the car window. He saw 2 boys standing there. Brian cracked the window to ask the boys what they wanted. The boys stated that they needed a ride to get money to see a movie. When he checked the time, Brian noticed that the movie was already halfway through. He then noticed the pitch black eyes. As Brian started to drive off in fear, the boys exclaimed that they needed permission to be let in. Brian drove off, and as he checked his rearview mirror, the boys were gone. I won't get into any more detail, but I will leave links down below to his original post, as well as an article that he wrote for the newspaper he works for back in 2013. I will also include links to different sources down below. But Sean, you said that the stories of the BEKs predates the internet, you may be asking. And they do. Researchers such as David Weatherly have dug long and deep, spoken to people about their accounts. Stories date back to the 80s, the 70s, even the 1950s. And not just here in the US, but all over the world. There are even legends that go back to the Iroquois Nation about children with black eyes that have had their light stolen by the evil-minded one. There are even legends that predate Christianity. In Scandinavian folklore, there are black-eyed beings known as Smeelings, souls of unwanted children that were left to die or even murdered, come back for revenge. It is said that they cannot be at peace until they have either gotten their revenge or given a proper burial, although legend has it that you can pacify one by giving it a name. So what happens if you let one of these things into your home or car? Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, there aren't many stories of that happening, but there are a few. Stories reported car accidents, disappearing or dying pets, illnesses including cancer and tumors, and even reports of disappearances and death. So what exactly are the black-eyed kids? No one can say for sure, but there are plenty of theories. The two most popular theories are, 1, they are demons that have taken the form of children, and 2, they are some kind of alien or alien-human hybrid. Both of these are due to the odd mannerisms BEKs are known to have, and the black eyes. Some stories even suggest connections with the real Men in Black. That having to be invited in could heavily lean into the demon theory, as well as the less popular theory that they are vampires. Of course, you got people that believe that it's a hoax. Either people making shit up, or kids with all black sclera contacts. Sure, people could be making shit up, and I have no doubt that at the very least some of the stories are. However, the black sclera contacts theory is highly unlikely. Sure, they are somewhat affordable today. Cosplayers and actors use them all the time. However, when Brian Bethel had his encounter, they would have been super hard to get and super expensive, like $400 a pair. Plus, they also restrict your vision a lot and are super uncomfortable. Now, I don't have any experience with sclera contacts myself, but Moose does and has offered to shed some light on the possibilities that kids are using them for hoaxes.
Hey guys, it's Tiffany. If you've seen Moose's Movie Mondays, you know me as Moose. Sean asked me to talk about the scleral contacts. So basically, any scleral contact that you get is going to obstruct vision. I don't know any child who's going to let you sit there long enough to put something like that in their eye, let alone a child who's going to keep it in long enough to do anything extensive. I've worn the full blackout scleral contacts and they're very uncomfortable. I can't wear them for more than maybe 4 hours at a time, and that's as someone who wears colored mesh and other contacts on a pretty regular basis. So something that blocks out your vision that much is going to be super uncomfortable to wear for, like I said, anything over 4 or 5 hours. You also have to be very careful because it's already difficult to see, and during the night it's going to be nearly impossible to see anything. I worked at a haunt, and I'm sure somewhere through here Sean will be putting up pictures of the contacts that I have used throughout the haunt and through cosplay, and it was significantly harder to see at night than I anticipated. Like I said, it's pretty unlikely that any child is going to be using them. Anyone under, let's say, the age of 16 is super unlikely to be using these for any extended amount of time. You would be lucky to get them to keep them in for maybe 10 minutes. I have a 6-year-old cousin, and there is no possible way that I could put in a full scleral contact on her. She would not sit still long enough. She would not accept the feeling of that in her eye, because it is a very uncomfortable sensation. You can't see. For all intents and purposes, it's very unlikely that any kids within the black-eyed children age range are going to be wearing anything like full scleral contacts. Also, there was something about them being super expensive. I believe that Sean had mentioned that people were saying they're very expensive. You can get a good pair of scleral contacts for anywhere from about $80 to $150 if they're non-prescription, depending on where you get them from. If they're prescription, they're obviously going to be a little more, but they're nowhere near the $400 or $500 range. I'm sure there are places for, like Hollywood Productions that sell them for that much, but it's way, way overpriced. I have never met someone that paid that much for a pair of scleral contacts. It's always been, I paid $100, $120 for them, and even the mesh ones that I have, as Sean will show here, hopefully, the mesh ones that I have were not that expensive, but as I said, they do cover the pupil entirely, which is what a lot of scleral contacts do, and just make it nearly impossible to see at nighttime. It's very difficult to see in dim lighting. I cannot imagine going out, just walking around at night in these contacts. It would be miserable. I would have to have a spotter, someone with me, especially with not having prescription or being able to wear any kind of glasses or anything with it for the full effect of being a black-eyed child. It's just severely unlikely that anything like a scleral contact would be used in situations like this. I hope that helped. Thanks, guys.
There are also theories that BEKs are interdimensional beings. Along with it, a theory that they are coming to harvest our fear, much like the movie Monsters, Inc. So many different theories. Demons, aliens, hybrids, vampires, interdimensional beings, changelings, mealings, ghosts, chemical hallucinations, hoax, fairies, jinns. There's even a theory that they are tulpas, which would explain why they seem to take on many characteristics of so many different things. One thing I can tell you though, if by some chance you hear a knock at your door late at night, and there's a child asking to be let in, just say no. Better to be safe than sorry. Be sure to give this video a like, and comment down below if you've had any encounters yourselves, or what you would like to hear me talk about in a future episode. Tune into the next FrEEK Show, when I delve into the legend of La Llorona. Take care everyone, and keep those doors closed.